code at the end, because this place that we're doing this at is at the new Stick of Joseph studio. Our normal studio isn't this big, it's actually downstairs, but this was donated to us generously by an awesome man by the name of Jay Davis. Put your hand up right here.
Give it up for Jay.
And
we are especially... There's one of you in the crowd that's especially grateful for Jay Davis, and that is our mother and father, Leslie and Brian Paul. Because up until about probably 2 months ago, we were filming and doing everything in their basement. So now they have their new basement back.
And now they're actually excited to see us because they don't see us every single day. So that's
Exactly.
awesome.
God
So
bless
we're
you,
so
Jay.
grateful for that. And we're going to be giving away, I think we have 5 pillow cubes that we're going to be giving away. So scan the QR code, then enter your information, and we'll be able to do the giveaway live here at the end. And we're so excited for tonight. So first off, how many people here watched the very first time that we went on Ward Radio with David Butler? Is anyone there? Okay. And if you saw that, then you are going to remember a breakout performance by Dave Butler, a musical performance. And so we're going to pass the mic over to David Butler, and he's going to do a musical performance to start us off right and get fired up, and then we'll take it from there.
Rock on, Dave! Freebird!
Oops. Sorry. Strap fell off. You're pretty worthy. That's good. It's a bit of a tangle of wires up here. Not Freebird. So you're going to sing with me. I know some of you knew that already. The rest of you, surprised. You're going to sing the chorus. Okay, I'm going to tell you the words right now. You're going to figure out the melody. It's pretty easy. Okay? The chorus goes like this. I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. Okay? So just say that with me. I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. Laman and Lemuel are at it again. Yeah, they're picking up sticks to beat me. And I know that the Lord will prepare a way. They just cannot defeat me. Just as my vision starts to swim, here come an angel, kick down the door. He says, put the kid down, boys. It's time to go see Laban. We're rolling off the bountiful hammer to the floor, and I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. Well, I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. Well, everyone's your friend when bellies are full. You break your bow, everybody's a critic. Well, my brothers can't hunt. They're loud and slow when dad's getting too arthritic. So I scrounge these hills for what I need, a stab of wood and a long straight stick. Well, I haven't seen a track for weeks, doesn't really matter. I'll say a little prayer, now that'll do the trick, and I'm large of stature. Everybody, just like Nephi. Oh, I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. And I know that the Lord is good to me. Yes, I do. Don't you know that the Lord is good to you? Well, Amen and Lemuel, they're whining again. They're saying Nephi's just out to rule us. What do you mean bountiful ain't the promised land? Well, how long did you think you could fool us? What's with that stupid bellows you made? And what do you know about boats? Well, not a blessed thing, boys, but I can take directions. I'll put her in the water, the Lord will see she floats, and I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. Ooh, I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. And again, here we go. Well, I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. And I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. One last time. Well, I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. Well, I'm large of stature, just like Nephi. Thank you.
Give it up one more time for Mr. David Butler. Alrighty, for everyone that's tuning in online, up here is going to appear a little QR code for the next 24 hours. If you scan this QR code, you'll be able to get anything off Witness Apparel for 25% off. As well, in the description, there's now a link to enter the giveaway that we'll be doing at the end of the broadcast. But now has come to the time we're going to have our first panel. And so I'm going to have Mr. David Butler come join me, as well as Greg Madson and Andrea Woodmancy. Please give it up for them.
Why don't you come sit in the middle, Andrea?
Oh boy, okay.
Yeah. Here, you also sit on the outside.
You can hand that yellow one to Greg. Testing. All right. So, first off, as a thank you for all of our invited guests that we invited to participate, as a gesture of gratitude, we actually got you each gifts, if that's okay, personalized gifts. And David Butler, to many of you, may only be known as his author name, which is D. John Butler. And many of you have recognized the starking similarities between that name and the famous condiment of Dijon mustard. Okay? And even a man right here in the front row, McKay Farner, coined David's rapper name, which is Big Mustard, or Big Musty for short. And so we thought it was only fair to give David his own Big Mustard with his face on it.
Hold it up.
Alrighty. And then anyone that's a fan of Greg Madson's show, Quick Media, knows that he is at the forefront of combating woke ideas and progressive movements and stuff. But after watching a recent movie by Matt Walsh called Am I Racist, I was thinking that Greg is becoming a little too well known, and so he needs a disguise to help him be included in inclusive spaces, right? And so what we got for him was a new shirt, if you could just hold that up for everyone, that I think he'd love. It's of Karl Marx, and it says radical, and he's skateboarding. As well as I went online and I searched up free diversity and equity and inclusion course, and I actually took an hour and 32 minutes doing it for and in behalf of Greg. And it said free, but turns out the only thing that was free was all the quizzes that I took, and then you had to pay $45 for the certificate at the end. Morally, I couldn't justify it, so I made him my own. It says Certificate of Certification. Greg Madson has received this award for successfully completing discussing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. So give it up for him.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Andrea Woodmancy. For a while, she wasn't even known to me. She was just known to Hayden as a mother of 5 who loved researching and writing, and they worked on a couple projects together, but she decided to come on the Sick of Joseph one day, and today her video just passed 200,000 views, which is the most viewed video on our channel by far, and she is actually in the process of writing her manuscript for an actual multi-book series. Stand by for how many that will be. And as Carton would say, we're going to codify this relationship with Plain and Precious Publishing and Andrea Woodmancy right now, because in her episode, if you didn't see it, she talked about the ancient Hebrew wedding tradition. And if you can remember from that, who remembers the wedding contract, what it was called? A ketubah, yes. And so I think we have a picture of what ketubahs look like on the screen right in a second. Oh, right there, right on the right. And so what we have for Andrea is a ketubah for her contract right now, for her book. Oh, nice. And we've got some liquid in some champagne bottles that we're going to clink and drink, I think.
Just like the wedding tradition. So, Dave, you have a pen, right? You always have a pen.
Yeah, it's right there in the corner.
Okay, as we get the pen, we're going to clink and take a sip.
Alrighty. I'll sign mine.
Beautiful, beautiful.
There we go, and this will make it official that she is publishing a book with Plain and Precious Publishing.
You want to bring those up? Hey,
And so this officially stamps into the sky her contract to publish a book with Plain and Precious PPP. All right, Plain and Precious Publishing.
So that's fantastic. We have two more, actually.
Oh.
Emily's going to bring me a couple of things over here.
Okay.
So one of them, some of you may have noticed that we interviewed noted Methodist scholar Margaret Barker.
Yes.
And, yep. I don't know if you know this. We went to England to do that. It was a fantastic trip, and it was an interesting trip. There were a lot of real weighty discussions, interviewing Margaret, other exciting stuff.
Good.
And after we'd finished a long day of sort of work, we got back to the hotel and we're talking about stuff. Intense conversations, making calls to research some things. And Jackson suddenly left and went and got a golf club. I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm the CEO, so I'm going to go golf now. You guys solve this. So to recognize Jackson's transition to the executive office, we got him a little office golf. I assume he owns his own putting club. Now Hayden, very, very good. He did not go away. So we got him some Sephora product. No. It's the political season is a very confusing time.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to know. Man, we live in an age where it's very hard to know what to trust, who to believe in, what political candidate, words you can actually believe. And so we got Hayden. We thought a banner for a political candidate he could really believe in.
Oh my gosh. Here we go. Hecklefish.
It is Hecklefish.
If you raise your hand if you've seen Y-Files before.
Anyone ever seen the Y-Files?
Oh, you conspiracy
It's
theories
a
out there.
wild
Let's hear it.
YouTube channel. It's a fun time right there.
It is a
Hecklefish
talking
for
paranoid
2024.
goldfish.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
There we go.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Dave. We're not expecting that.
Hey.
Awesome. Kate, well, we want to hear, the people want to hear a little bit more about these books that you're writing on and kind of your passion behind it and what's your end goal in putting out whatever it is you're writing.
Andrea, go first.
All right. Well, first, thank you all for being here. This is incredible. What an amazing group of people. So the importance of my book, I think, hit me again on the flight up here. I'm in Phoenix, so as I flew up, I started counting temples that I was flying by, and I think I got to 9. May have missed one in there, and I thought, why do we build all these temples, right? And I think sometimes we lose sight of what the temple is all about. That we feel like, okay, we go when we do, proxy work for the dead, and we make covenants, and we feel like we've kind of accomplished the checklist of all of the different ordinances that we're supposed to participate in. And then we think, well, what was that all about? Like, did I just check all the boxes and now I'm magically good to go? Or sometimes we're left guessing at what some of the symbolism might mean. And it's like, I didn't really get that. What am I supposed to get out of this? And you're kind of left wondering what it all means. What's the bigger picture? And that's really where I was about 20 some odd years ago, just not really getting it. And so I started to dig deeper and stumbled into so much information. Actually, I will say one of the people that saved my testimony back then was actually Margaret Barker, that you guys got to go meet with, and she's not even a member of the church. But I stumbled into her research and how she's reconstructing this ancient religion, this ancient Hebrew religion that predates Judaism, it predates Moses. And as I read what she was writing, I thought, she's this woman she's probably in her 80s, 90s now?
Probably 80s.
Spent decades researching this at a very high academic level. And she's piecing together what's already in the temple. And that just hit me that Joseph Smith didn't make this up. He restored this. And it's not even just a restoration of what Jesus Christ brought. It's a restoration of that ancient covenant that was given to Adam and Eve in the very beginning. And it's embodied in the ancient Hebrew wedding traditions that I talked about in that video that I thought only my mom would watch. But to see it embodied in that and to study those traditions and then realize the parallels to our temple worship and what that means for us just opened my eyes up to who Jesus Christ really is, what my relationship to and with him looks like. And so that's what the book will be digging into.
That's
the
awesome.
first one.
Holy cow, that's awesome. Ever since I've had that conversation, the thing I love about the Stick of Joseph, and I think it's probably the same thing you guys love, is all the people that we bring on. And it's just built my testimony so much. It has completely changed the way that I worship God. And I'm so grateful to all of you, everybody sitting up here and even more sitting out here, of just how rich you have made my testimony and how much focus you've put on the temple as well. And it's really unlocked it. How many people has the Stick of Joseph's guests changed their temple worship here? Yeah, it's awesome.
I have to tell a little story about Andrea.
Yeah.
So some of you may have noticed I was at the taping for that initial session with Andrea. I wasn't supposed to be noticeable, but like I started
You said
saying
a couple things, yeah.
off camera. So, but at the end, I said, look, Andrea, we're starting a publishing company, and I want you to write a manuscript for us. She said, well, no, no, maybe sometime in the future, but no. And I pressed her again as we walked out to the car, out of the blanket fort in the basement. And it's still a blanket fort. Now it's a blanket fort on the third floor.
In Jay's office
in an
building.
office building. And so I urged her again. I said, man, we'd really let you do great. I'd really love to publish a book by you. And, here's kind of how we think we're going to operate. And she said, no. And so she went home, off to Arizona, aired the episode. It was pretty quickly 100,000 views and climbing. And Andrea texted me and said, okay, I'm going to write you a book.
Yeah, no, I think Andrew, you've been very hesitant. You were really nervous about even going on in the first place because you didn't really want to be in the public eye. And I just think that all of these people here and the 200,000 people that have watched your video and I think it has 30,000 shares. 30,000 people liked it so much that they wanted to share it with people. I think you're hitting on something that is really important, and I'm really excited to see that written in a book.
And I'll just say this, if you go on the video, one of the most liked comments on there is someone that said, I love Andrea's bio of a mother of 5 that loves studying the gospel, because essentially that is in a sense what we all are. We're all mothers of 5.
It was hard, wasn't it,
I'd
Jackson?
like to see you try that, Jackson.
My children are so easy to take care of. No, I'm just saying, we're all just, normal people just trying to stay close to Jesus Christ. And it's just so impressive that you've been able, amidst all the craziness in your life, do all this amazing research that obviously has made waves. And we're so excited for your book to come out.
Thank you.
Right. So when do we get the manuscript? Just kidding, you have to say that here. We're pumped. We're excited
it's
for it.
in the contract. It's due tomorrow, actually.
Yes. Yeah. You signed that contract. You should have read it. It was really small print, but you should have read it. There's some crazy stuff in there. So, Greg, Now, you have been working on a book as well. Tell us a little bit about your book.
So for those of you that are longer-term followers of the podcast of Quick Show, I used to do a quick Come Follow Me series. And I wanted to start off talking more about the cultural issues that I do, but my wife said, no, you're not doing that first. You're starting off with Come Follow Me. It was the same time that Come Follow Me was starting. And so I thought, okay, great. And this would be an opportunity for me to kind of talk about the scriptures as everybody follows along with these little they're interpreters, right? They're widgets, or as we talked about earlier today, they're like spiritual apps to grab and to understand the scriptures a little bit better. And so there are 7 of these that I focus on. I go over these sometimes, and sometimes I'll bring this up in the podcast and talk about them. But they're essentially ways to look at the scriptures in a way that brings it to life a lot more. So one example, I usually give this first example to everyone, is the royal procession. And we talk about the triumphal entry in the last week of Jesus' life, but we don't always understand what that triumphal entry really is. And if you notice in the 4 Gospels, whenever we look at the last week of Jesus' life, you see this emphasis on the king. And over again, it's hardly brought up anywhere else until you get to this last week of Jesus' life. And what you're really seeing there is a royal procession. He is coming in as the king, coming in through the east gate of Jerusalem to go over to the palace. This is what Solomon did. He got on a donkey, and God came in from the east gate and went over to the not the palace, the temple, to be crowned. It's the same thing. The Jews that are there waving the palms and throwing out the robes in front of him, they know exactly what they're doing. It's a ritual. And this ritual had been, another interpreter, had been taught over and over again annually in the festivals, in the Israelite festivals. There was a temple drama. Part of the temple drama is the royal procession. Part of the temple drama is the king who would go into the basement for 3 days with all of the lights turned out in all of Israel for 3 days. And then he would rise again and be resurrected. And this is what we lose in the loss of the plain and precious things in the Old Testament. There was an archaeological finding in the 1920s in Ugarit, which is a city in Canaan, where they found all of these texts, 1,500 texts. 150 of them were temple texts. And these 150 texts were basically, as they went through them, we started looking at them, they're familiar, and they realized they were the Psalms. And the difference is that the Psalms were moved all around. It's like throwing them in a blender and making all of the different Psalms put in different locations, so there's no sequence to them. In the Ugarit finding, they were in a sequence. It's the temple drama. And this is what they prophesied about. You think about it, the ancients, they didn't have scriptures in their homes. They didn't have family home evening. They opened up the quad and took a look at things, right? They didn't have their phones. They had the drama that they would go to in the festivals, and this is where the doctrine was dictated. This is where they learned about the gospel, and they did it in ways that would be in prose and poetry and chanting and things where you could regurgitate this over and over again and bring it home with you and teach it through song. And so this last procession, this royal procession of Jesus, was simply playing out the temple drama. But instead of it being the king who was playing the King of Kings, it was the King of Kings. And when you look at other scripture, a number of areas of scripture, you see this, that this writing about things. Take Isaiah, where in chapter 40, where he talks about preparing the way. And you have this iconic figure of the one who's going to prepare the way. And what I suggest is that way, a la Brandon Sanderson, is the way of kings. It is the way of the king. And so the one who would prepare the way would be the one who is the icon of the preparatory priesthood, the Aaronic priesthood. And he would make the path straight. He would clear out the stumbling blocks to bring in the Melchizedek, to bring in the King of Kings, the King of righteousness, which is what Melchizedek means. And this is exactly what we do in the temple. we go through our own royal procession. We go through the last week of Jesus' life. We are washed and anointed as kings and queens and priests and priestesses. Why? Why does that happen at the beginning? It happens because we are going to go through a royal procession. That is what we do. And so the book in that section talks a lot about how this royal procession is not only a ritual and written of throughout the scriptures, but it's our own temple experience as we go through that. So just an example.
Wow.
I met Greg early this year. He came up to Provo, and we had a mutual friend, Gail Pooley.
Last year.
Was it last year?
Yeah, it was last year.
Is that really?
When we went to Mexican?
Is it Joe Rivera's? What's the?
Yeah, wherever that is in downtown Provo. Yeah.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah.
Joe Vera's.
Yeah, it was last year.
On Center Street. Okay. Have we eaten out twice there? Yeah. That's it. Okay. So the second time. Yeah. So the second time, we were having it all blends together. We were talking about something. One of the 7 spiritual apps that Greg talks about in his book relates to the Nehushtan, the serpent on a pole that Moses raises. It's not the Nehushtan itself, but it relates to it. And
she's got her own Nehushtan that she showed me.
Really?
Oh, very cool. Totes jelly. And some of the things Greg said really like set off connections in my head. I was working on In the Language of Adam at the time, and so I was real careful. Afterwards, I was not sure what Greg had actually said and what I was like thinking based on what he said. And I was really afraid. I knew who was writing this book. I was really afraid that I'd just stolen his book. So I know, and he could obviously beat me up. And so I emailed him the manuscript, and it says, I talked to Greg Madson. That's when this idea happened. In case I had stolen his book, he could. And I said, "There's on page 182 or whatever." And he said, "No, don't worry, man.
You're such a snake."
Yeah. But
that was a biblical dad joke.
That was awesome.
And did you say bad joke or dad joke?
Dad joke.
Okay. Probably both.
They're kind of synonymous, though. Dad jokes and bad jokes, right?
So. He said, "No worries, man. My book is a lot bigger than that," which it is.
Yeah. So we're so excited. We already recorded the bonus footage for his book. We had 2 days worth of conversations. I think it totals over 10 hours. And so just like with all of our books, just as with Key to the Keystone, that is going to have awesome conversations that accompany each chapter. So we're so excited for you guys and to get these books done so that we can share them with the world. If you want to be notified when these books come out, in the description of this live stream, you sign up on the giveaway, and we're going to use that list as well to be able to share when their books come out. And so you can do that. And you can find Greg at Quick Media. CWIC, the right way of spelling quick. And then Andrea Woodmancy, we are actually going to be releasing more and more stuff of Andrea on the Stick of Joseph. So you can find her on the Stick of Joseph as well as on Instagram at dive.deeper.podcast. So awesome. Thank you guys so much. Give them a hand, and we'll move to the next part.
I'm just going to call it Megan. Okay. Let me just, I want to make one quick call out to a writer who's not up here, because I spent some time this fall working with Megan Farner on her upcoming book. Anybody here watch Latter-day Disciples? Okay, all right, woo! So Megan's actually here. She's not on the stage. She's right down here in front, though. She's got a book coming out from another publisher called Consider Yourself as Eve, which is it's sort of part memoir and personal reflection, but also part guide to using the temple as a path for or as a tool for spiritual development, specifically for women readers.
From another publisher.
And I know. I'm supporting our competitors here. So this is terrible capitalist behavior. But so Megan's around, so talk to her about that and look for that book as well. Consider yourself as Eve.
Alrighty, before we have our next panel up here, we're going to do a little 5-minute break. So Quaker needs a pee. Get out of here. But yeah, Card, get up here and do another giveaway.
Jeez Louise. All right, rock on. Okay, so while we're waiting for Kwaku and giving everybody a little bit of a break, you can grab some refreshments if you want to. Recently, I did some video content about a year ago with Hayden and Jackson. We went... Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. The cameras are on. Is this my good side? Thank you. So, anyway, recently I went to Israel with Hayden and Jackson. We came back with a couple of goodies for you guys. This is just a giveaway, but we needed to film mourning on the Mount of Olives, which, as you guys know, is significant to biblical prophecy. And being members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we do believe in a very unique and beautiful thing that you can give blessings for the healing of the sick and the afflicted. And we have a buddy there that actually makes these super cool vial holders out of olive wood from Israel. And me and Jackson already blessed this cheese. And he's the handsomest guy in all of Mormonism. So I can't tell you doctrinally it works better. But, like, I don't know. I have a feeling. I just have a feeling. So, really quick, just trivia to the first person that can answer a couple of questions here that are things that you would know if you watch the show. Hayden and Jackson are both Marines. First person that can yell out the slogan of the Marines. I think I heard you. In the latter days, women will give blessings too. I'm sure you got a friend you can give that to right now. You know, you just got the hat on, bro, and you look legit. So you get one. And then last one, oh, you're pointing, man. Oh, I wish Brittany the Shadow advocated for me as you advocate for him. He bought you tickets for your birthday? Okay, make it or break it, double or nothing. I'll give you a hat and this thing. If me and Dave Butler did an episode, what's that? Yeah, what's that word for the brazen serpent? Shh. What's the word for the brazen serpent? You get it. There we go. Awesome. All right, is Kwaku back yet? Kwaku back yet? No. Okay, one last hat. Whose birthday? What? Oh, okay. Oh, well then here, you get a hat. Are you a small medium, very demure, very mindful, very Ward Radio? Are you going to wear it? Okay, cool. Rock on. There you go. Awesome. All right, cool. So you guys need the mic?
While we wait for Kwaku, let's just have Carton come on up here, Jacob and Ashley Stone. Get up here. Give it up for him.
Jeez Louise. Okay.
Alrighty. So, yeah, we'll give them their gifts. All right, Kwaku's making his way in. Carden Ellis, there's thousands of reasons that we love you, okay? Thousands of reasons. But the reason that I think, I'm speaking for everyone here, we love you the most is you are considered a catchphrase king among many. And a few that I like, you always seem to work into a lot of your episodes a phrase called knuckle-dragging troglodytes. Which I don't know how you've said that multiple times in your life, let alone just once. But another phrase that we love that you say, you're always being such a good radio host and checking our understanding as you're saying things. And usually that's portrayed as you saying, you know what I'm saying. And we saw a comment on one of your recent videos that you did with with Dave Butler, and I think we have it up on the screen.
I'm scared.
But basically it says, Cardin, for the love of all that's good and holy, you must wear a shirt that says, you know what I'm saying? Then all you have to do is point. You know what I'm saying? And so there we go. Show that shirt to the people.
The look for today's video is you know what I'm saying.
Now, Ashley Stone, how many of you are familiar with the Comeback podcast? Amazing. And so I did a reaction video recently to a video that a critic of the church, was saying that she's never met someone that's left the church and regretted it. There's no one that exists. That's what she was saying. And so the Comeback podcast is honestly designed to give people a megaphone that have come back to the fold. And Ashley herself has an amazing story. And so I would highly recommend you go on her channel. But we decided there's a few things that portray comebacks and also things that we would like to see make a bigger comeback. So if any of you have seen the VHS tape Rudy, kind of an underdog story, but kind of a comeback as well. So if you have a VHS player, you can use that.
Wait, he got baptized.
Did he?
Yeah, we got
Rudy.
We got him.
We got
Rudy.
Rudy.
We got him.
Rudy.
That didn't go over very well with my brother-in-law, who is actually an alumni of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And so I may have sent a text to him being like, hey, we got Rudy. He didn't appreciate that.
But also, has anyone ever used a Tamagotchi before? Come on, start buying more Tamagotchis, make those a comeback. And then these are always inside. I don't think they've ever gone out. A nice fanny pack for you. So there we go. Thank you for coming.
I actually brought one. It's right there.
Oh, she has her own fanny pack as well.
Still cool.
God bless you. Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. Jacob Hansen, how many of you are followers of Thoughtful Faith in here? Heck yeah. Jacob Hansen, this year, he took LDS apologetics to a whole nother level, down to a wrestling mat, where he went toe-to-toe with Jacob Isbell in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I wasn't able to actually watch that. How did it go?
It went good for the first minute, and then it didn't go good for the other couple minutes. So thanks for bringing that up, man.
You might have taken an L on the mat, but then he had a debate with him in regards to polygamy, and we actually got a screen grab of that debate live and put it on a T-shirt for you, so you never forget. Never forget that historical smackdown. Shout out to Hayden for that perfect Photoshop job.
That's great.
Awesome. Kwaku L. Give it up for Kwaku L. One of the OGs of the Ward Radio Wigwam. And for those of you OGs of Ward Radio, I think he's mentioned this on the podcast before, but for a long time, we didn't know from whence Kwaku came or where or, what planet, how old this man was. He didn't have a birth certificate until just recently. And
congratulations.
Were you able to choose your own birthday?
Kinda, no.
What?
They kind of just give you one, and if you don't think it's right, then you have to apply for them to change it. So we don't really know, but they gave me one.
Well, since you've never been able to truly celebrate your birthday, we're actually going to do it live on air right now, because Kwaku L, we're going to say today, he is 24 years old. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kwaku. Happy birthday to you. Let's go.
That made me want to be a Jehovah's Witness.
Goodness gracious. All right. Well, here, as I've talked to a few of you individually, I've heard some big plans that you have with your channels and some exciting things that you're working on. And so, Cardin, I just kind of want to start with you and maybe Kwaku at Ward Radio. You mentioned to me in March you guys are looking at doing maybe more live events, but what does the future of Ward Radio look like, and what can we expect?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. How much time do you have? I mean, we are flying so far over our skis. Some of the coolest stuff we have going on is we're going to do a lot more live events like this one. Actually, you guys are going to be able to come and see some, hopefully, in the near future, some live taped episodes where we'll be able to have the audience interact, maybe do some Q&A, so on and so forth. We're hopefully going to be hosting some debates here, and there's a lot of people that want to debate us and some of our friends. Whether it's polygamy deniers versus polygamy realityers, or whatever you want to call it, whether it's Mesoamerican versus Heartlanders, we're working on it all, and actually feature films. Ward Radio Pictures will be releasing a couple of really cool, I can't say the names, I would just die to be able to say the names right now, but we're actually going to be producing some feature films and a whole lot more content, and actually, we're going to start broadcasting on shortwave radio to Africa because the Ward Radio Discord missionaries actually just got 2 baptisms. The first 2 baptisms of the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints can be laid directly at the feet of the hard efforts of Jonah Barnes' team on the Ward Radio Discord in the entire country of Guinea-Bissau. So the first 2 members of record in the country of Guinea-Bissau are because of the hard work of our Ward Radio Discord missionaries. So we're actually going to make a series of hopefully 5 or 6 episodes that, if all the stars align, we're going to broadcast to Africa. So yeah, we got lots going on. That's fantastic. What up?
Well, we're excited for all of that. Oh, yeah. How many of you, this is your first time seeing Cardin Ellis in person? Does he match expectations? Yeah, he's basically the same everywhere, which is awesome. He's beautiful. Awesome. Well, Ashley Stone from Comeback Podcast, we were having a conversation yesterday, hearing a little bit more about your story. And you were telling us you have hundreds of emails of people wanting to share their stories as well. You personally, why do you feel it's so necessary to give a voice to these people that have come back to the fold? And what have you learned since starting your podcast?
So the thing that really got me wanting to start the podcast was I saw all these people announcing they were leaving the church on social media. And I was a heroin addict I was in jail, I was in rehab, all the things, and coming back to the church saved my life. And there's a lot of people online that discredit my story and say that I just came back because, I don't know, they discredit the fact that coming back to the church saved my life. But when I saw all these people announcing they were leaving on social media, I thought, I gotta stand up and say something, because coming back truly, it gave me so much purpose and so much peace, and the Savior's enabling power truly transformed my entire life. And so I started to find that other people had similar stories, like Lauren. She's our producer, and she has a story of coming back to the church and her life being saved because of that. And I mean, some of the coolest stories are people that were very loud ex-Mormons that come back to the church. And we see all these people online who are so antagonistic to the church. And I mean, to hear their story of coming back, it is so powerful. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Hayden and I had the opportunity the other day to do a broadcast with a future guest on your show.
You did?
John DeLynn from Mormon Stories. But I'm excited for his episode.
We are so excited to have John on the podcast.
We love you, brother. And awesome. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Jacob Hansen from Thoughtful Faith. How many of you are followers of Jacob Hansen? I already asked that, but Jacob, actually, recently you changed your intro to a very Jordan Peterson-esque thing.
Yeah, actually, that's I have someone helping out with the channel now named Austin, and he's really good at that stuff. And
Cool.
he just one day texts me that. He's like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna use that."
That's all. Is Austin here tonight?
He is here tonight. Austin.
Give it up for Austin. And that's another thing, and you guys can all probably relate to this, is once we've started these and people have just reached out that are incredibly talented and offered their services, and it's made these things better that we're trying to build. And so shout out to you guys. But Jacob, what are some things, kind of same question I asked to Cardin, what are some things that we can expect from your channel? And I've heard you've been working on some bigger things.
Yeah, so it's funny. I have a lot of different ideas and things. One of the big ones that I'm pushing for right now is actually to get other people involved in the channel. I actually don't want it to be like the Jacob Hansen show. I want it to be a place where many people can be involved in essentially the mission of my channel is to contrast truth and falsehood. And by doing that, build people's faith in God, in Jesus Christ, and the restored gospel. And I've found that there are people out there that are very talented. And I've realized that if I just stick it just to me and everything has to filter through me, it only can go so far. Oh, what's this? What is this? Jacob Hansen and Friends. Should I open the card first?
You should open it.
This is totally unexpected. This was not planned.
That was our security guard, so you should.
Boy.
Does it say from Mark Hoffman?
I know, right? I'm nervous about people knowing where I am here. Hold on here. Friends like you are some of life's brightest blessings. Jacob, thanks for coming on our channel, Pints with Aquinas, and debating, in air quotes, versus we're really glad you did that in front of all of our viewers. To show there's no hard feeling, here's a cake. Be sure to light the candle when you have all of your satanic cult friends around you. Trent Horn and Matt Frad. Let's open it.
Give this man some help.
What's in there? This is so unexpected.
Oh, so unexpected.
Wait, do you know anything about this?
I don't know anything about this.
You don't know anything about this, Jonah?
I don't know anything about it. Light the candle!
I would say refrain.
I'm not gonna
Does it taste good?
I'm not gonna lie. No, that's good enough. Oh, actually,
So the next thing I'm looking for the channel to help me out is security. That'd be the next thing I'd like to get some help with.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so getting more people involved in the channel is one thing. Another thing is I'm working with Austin. We're going to put together a multi-part series on the life of Joseph Smith, basically telling his story all the way through, so that people, especially for Come Follow Me this coming year, so that they can really understand the story of Joseph Smith. And really, I like to say it's almost like there's a camera following through his life rather than just focusing on different episodes of his life, so you can kind of understand the full story. And then after that, we're thinking about also doing the same for Brigham Young and the Brigham Young era of the church. And so, because I've studied both the life of Joseph Smith and Brigham Young in some detail, and I've walked away from that realizing that we spend so much time focusing on these anecdotes from their life that we never step back and look at the whole picture of what they did. And what they did is just, I don't care if you believe or not. These are some of the most incredible stories ever. They're just amazing to learn. And so I want to share that. And then, I'll continue to do the similar kind of content that I've done. Look for the chance to do debates when those are appropriate and debunk things that need to be debunked. So
Awesome. Give it up for Jacob. I remember years ago seeing Kwaku L's face pop up on my feed over and over with these epic Book of Mormon evidence videos. And you've been in the LDS apologetic space for a long time. I'm curious, from the time that you started in this space to now, what are ways that you see that maybe we're winning the online battle and ways that we need to improve?
Oh, we're winning for sure, for sure. if you just look at the way that gospel media was pre-COVID to now, I mean, there are so many YouTube channels popping up left and right with incredible information. I mean, when I started it as like a kid on Saints Unscripted, it was Saints Unscripted, and there was a channel called That Mormon Boy. That was it. And he would film like in like a hotel room, and he had 3 videos, and I think he like left the church after that. And it was like, it was just these 3 dorky people with a fishbowl talking about the gospel. And now there's so many. There's conferences happening. There's all these amazing things. And when Card and I met in 2019, we had this feeling that there was going to come a time like this where there was going to be just an abundance of gospel media. And no one really believed that would happen. We, with Brad, created this one show called This Is the Show. And we won't use the acronym. But, that acronym created, now you have a book. Look at that. But no one really believed that would lead to anything. They just like, oh, it's so dumb, you guys, all these crude jokes. And one thing led to another, and people started paying attention to the Midnight Mormons. And then guests started coming on, and those guests started creating their shows. And now, I mean, we're rivaling evangelical YouTube in terms of content. So it's better than it's ever been. Yeah.
And can I just say, huge shout out to Carden Ellis, Brad Whitbeck, Kwaku L, and you guys from the beginning. I feel like you guys were kind of blazing trails in this. So big shout out to you guys.
Yeah, they were definitely. Hayden and I owe so much to you guys because you guys were really the people that, kind of put us out there. And to see the growth that you guys have had in the last little bit, like you guys have exploded. And one thing that's amazing, your demographics. Tell us about your demographics.
Well, actually, look at the room around you. I got to say, it's also, and actually, speaking of demographics, I'm not trying to be on a soapbox here, but huge shout out to Gracie, Savannah, Riley, and Erica, and Kwaku's future wife here, because at great sacrifice, when we had virtually nothing but a garage and like 3 DSLRs, these guys would come down for a week and sleep on my couch, and Riley would have to babysit the kids, Erica would have to babysit the kids. We were the ones on camera, but they were the girls that were really supporting these men, making it possible. So massive shout out to them and that demographic, because it wouldn't be possible without them. And same to Brittany the Shadow, who made it all possible. Speaking of demographics, actually my demographics are super fun. It's hilarious. I live in LA, so I really don't know the impact that our channel has sometimes, but I love coming to events like this because now I get to see people and see what kind of people are here. And I've realized that, like, if it's my age and younger, when they see me in public in Utah, it's like, okay, I know they're friendly. Like, they're like, oh, are you Carden Ellis? Yeah, that's me. Oh, you watch the show? Okay, great, awesome. Want to take a selfie? They're happy to see me. My age and older, oftentimes it's kind of angry, bitter, anti-Mormon, want to scream at me point blank at Thanksgiving point in the middle of the parking lot, and another one does in the movie theater. You know what I'm saying? Send you those kind of pics, just like everything. But then there's the stripling boomers. Where are my stripling boomers? I have a Jesus fish demographic. I have all these young people all over Spotify and YouTube and Instagram, and then it trails off between 45 and 55. They're the lost generation, really. and then it just spikes, 55 plus. And I love every one of your beautiful booming faces. All right? And so what else do you want to know about the demographic? That's really all I know.
That's all I want to know.
Oh, and missionaries all over the world. Actually, it's really fun. Like, we have tons of missionaries. Shout out to Elder Hansen, who just came home today from the Las Vegas mission. It was the first time in my life that I was prompted to speak to somebody in an airport. I saw a family who was waiting for somebody, and I thought, this feels unique. So I turned and I talked to him, and I said, does your missionary listen to Ward Radio? And she said, I thought I recognized you from somewhere. And I said, I will give a shout out to this man. So thank you. Thank you for your service, good and faithful servant, Elder Hanson from the Las Vegas mission. Boom. Home today. Home today.
Well, God bless you all for your efforts, and we're super grateful for everything that you guys are doing, and we wish you luck and fortune in your endeavors going forward. Give it up for them.
Come on.
Awesome.
All right, Kay. Now is the moment you have all been waiting for. The man, the myth, the legend, the person we are here today for. Jonah Barnes, please come up to the stage. And woo woo woo! Yeah, shadow box. Do I go here? Come sit by your book, man. That's awesome. Okay, and we're also gonna have Mike Day from Talking Scripture. Yes, Mike. We're gonna bring back up David Butler, and then we're gonna have Brad Whitbeck from Ward Radio. Okay, I'll do Mike, or I'll do Brad. Give me Brad.
This seat is very warm.
Okay, we got a couple gifts. We have some new guests that haven't received gifts yet. I'm going to start with Brad Whitbeck. All of you guys know that Brad is the sweet cream for Ward Radio. He takes all the bitterness and all the, and he smooths it out, and he makes it consumable. And we love Brad because he plays an amazing role, and he also keeps the peace. And a big part of that is because he's Canadian, so he's kind of a pushover in some ways, right? But just kidding. He's actually not a pushover. That's one thing I love about Brad is he actually pushes back, but he knows how to do it very kindly. But I don't think Canada is a proper. He's so good at keeping the peace that we had to get him a shirt that represents him better. He is the Switzerland of online LDS content. All right, next, Mike Day. So Mike is a defender of truth. If you guys have listened from the very beginning, I was enamored by Mike 10 years ago when I went to his Old Testament class, and I took the same Old Testament class. Like, it wasn't like Old Testament 1, Old Testament 2. It was just an Old Testament class 4 years in a row because it was that amazing. And Mike is such a good teacher. He is a defender of the truth. And one thing we've really dove into on the Stick of Joseph YouTube channel is digging into First Temple Judaism and what Jerusalem was like at the time of Lehi. And those Deuteronomists. Boo. Boo. Those dirty Deuteronomists. Mike is always trying to defend truth. He hates when the story isn't right, and that is what he does on our channel. And there's something else he's really passionate about that many people get wrong. How many people have seen Star Wars here? Now, there has been a grave misjustice. Han Solo, he's in the cantina, right? Who shot first? Who was it, huh? Han shot first, and Mike will never let that rest until everybody knows that Han shot first. There we go.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Now, Jonah Barnes.
Can I say, this is the weirdest crowd of people. We just had Deuteronomist, boo. This is the oddest crowd of people.
It's amazing. I love it. I love this. So, next we have Jonah. And Jonah has worked so hard. He wrote this amazing book that you all are going to read. And he has 2 other ones he's working on right now. And he's like cranking through them really fast. He right now has a shirt on, Tenure for Jonah, made by a fan right here. And guess what? We are going to make that dream come true tonight, live on the Stick of Joseph. We want to present you with the Plain and Precious University degree. It says, The Board of Trustees, upon the recommendation of the faculty, has conferred upon Jonah R. Barnes the degree of Doctor of All Things Apocryphal. It is signed by the Dean of Plain and Precious Publishing University, or Plain and Precious University, David Butler, and me, the president.
Thank you. What an honor.
Yes.
What
and
an honor.
We have
Wow.
one more gift that we want to give to the true hero. No, it's signed. They're both signed.
Someone signed it. Robert Clark signed it.
Yeah. So we have one more gift that we have to give. It's a trophy. And it's to someone that this book would not exist if it wasn't for this person. She is amazing. I've met her just today. But she is way cooler than Jonah in a lot of ways.
Way cooler.
And Charlotte, would you come up here? Charlotte Barnes. So this is a trophy. And you can't see it, but it says Charlotte Barnes, in recognition of your unconditional love for one of the world's biggest nerds. And if it, there we go. Woo! Yes. If it wasn't for her putting up with how nerdy you are, then this never would have been written.
It's true. It's
and
very true.
It truly is an amazing gift that has been given. So everybody on this panel right here has read The Key to the Keystone, and we love it. Mike even said he cried on the last page. Is that true?
Last page got me right here, and I'm not kidding. Like, I was reading that thinking, these were real people. And they fought and died for what you're talking about. So the message matters.
Yeah, it does matter. And so we're just going to have, for the next little bit, we want to give you guys a little bit of a taste of what Jonah's book's about. We're going to talk about chapter 1. We are going to talk about a couple other interesting parts of this book because we want to get you guys fired up to go home and read it all in one sitting, all right? No sleeping tonight. So
You're weird people.
Yeah, I know.
You're weird people. You can go home and read this book without sleeping, all about the Deuteronomists. It's going to be awesome. Strange people.
Yeah.
I love them. I love them.
It's awesome. Peculiar people. Yeah. There we go. So let's start off, Jonah. Tell us, for those watching, what is the Apocrypha? Let's just start base level. What is the Apocrypha? And then we'll start from there. And anyone's thoughts. Everybody, this is a panel discussion, but Jonah will be our guide.
All right, we're gonna get a little nerdy. Okay, so when in my book, when I say Apocrypha, I'm not referring to capital A Apocrypha like you read in section 91 of the Doctrine and Covenants that says, oh, you can read the Apocrypha and there's some good stuff and there's some bad stuff. That was what they called the Deuterocanon back in Joseph Smith's day. Okay, when the Book of Mormon comes out in 1829, there's one voice in the ancient world, and it's the Bible. That's it. The Bible is the jury, judge, executioner. It's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. It is all ancient history that's taught. It is the only voice. Then this crazy kid, Joseph Smith, says, there's another book from the ancient world that comes from the same place, same time, same traditions, and it's this one, and it's the Book of Mormon. It was like the first, okay? There was like a trickle of Enoch, and then later, right after that, there was a little Jasher, and then all these other books start coming out. The Apocalypse of Moses, the Apocalypse of Elijah, all these weird-sounding texts start coming out of pots and dusty libraries and the sands of Egypt, all these weird things, right? And so when I say Apocrypha, I'm referring to this hail that has fallen on the academic picnic, this huge flood of books that came out in the years following the Book of Mormon. And so these are things that are any text that purports to be ancient scripture or written by a prophet. And some people call them pseudepigrapha or apocrypha or, the Gnostic texts or nerd or whatever. But there's about
extra biblical
texts.
Yeah.
There's about 40 of the texts that I mined for the book. Some of them are really short. Some of them are really long. Some of them aren't in English. And they've come, some of them have just been translated in the past few years, and some haven't been translated. So it's all about them. Now, in the beginning of the book, you can read in the Dramatis Libri a little description of each text. So if I say, this comes from the Apocalypse of Baruch, and you're like, great, Jonah, that doesn't make any sense. What is this? You can flip to the front, and it'll say what the Apocalypse of Baruch is, where it came from, the year, the language, the blah, 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 why you should care. So if you're reading it and you're like, oh, what is it? You can flip to the front and you can tell, oh, this is what this is. So you kind of know what's up.
Yeah, so that's the Apocrypha, and the subtitle of the book is How Apocryphal Texts Unlock the Book of Mormon's Brass Plates. Mm-hmm. Now, the brass plates are the things that we do not have. We do not have the brass plates. Nobody we know has read them, Brad. You got them? Yet. Okay, yet. Yes, hopefully we get them soon. But what you're doing is you're using a certain... a certain technique to kind of reconstruct the brass plates. Uh-huh. And it's a technique that is used in the New Testament when they're trying to reconstruct how the New Testament is put together. And Mike, I know you know a lot about this. Can you explain the two-source hypothesis?
Yeah, I really
and how that works and how Jonah is kind of modeling that.
Yeah, so I really like how Jonah starts off with, okay, scholars look at the New Testament, they realize Matthew, Mark, and Luke see the same, and that's where we get synoptic, optic, sin, see the same. And the question is, there's stuff that Matthew has that Luke doesn't have, and there's stuff that that Luke has that maybe Matthew doesn't have, but they're both kind of cribbing Mark. And so the question is, where are they getting that other stuff? And so the other stuff is Q, which is short for quell. Is that German, bro? Yeah, so it's coming from German. If I need German stuff, I just look at Dave. I'm like, I don't know. But the two-source hypothesis is that Matthew and Luke are kind of pulling out of Mark, but that there was another script floating around. We don't have this text, but they call it Q. And so then what you do is then you jump over the gap. You jump over the chasm and say, can we apply this metric to the Book of Mormon text? Are there some things that are happening in the ancient world that the Book of Mormon is talking about that's not in the Bible, or that Joseph Smith didn't have access to? And can we start looking at some of these things and pulling on these threads and finding gold? And I would say after reading your book, your arguments are on point. You're seeing a lot of stuff in there. I mean, you read the book, but
Jonah's fangirling right now, Jonah.
But here's the thing:
he knew about Mike Day before anything.
I do. I've known about Mike Day. I'm really. When you were like talking about the Q thing, I was like, oh, please don't ask me to explain this in front of Mike Day. Please don't ask me to explain this.
Did I do okay?
Oh my gosh, no. So I'm really glad you turned it around.
I always try to take these academic things and be like, okay, how do I explain this to an institute class? How do I make it, palatable
for normal people?
Yeah, and now
non-nerds.
Now I'm teaching ninth graders, and so I'm like, okay, how would a 14-year-old understand this? So maybe, but I think a 14-year-old could get that.
Yeah,
We're good
for
with
sure.
that.
So like, think of it this way. So like, if you have. So the Book of Mormon says, the Nephite authors say, I'm reading from the brass plates. And then they'll talk about, the biggest example is Zenos and the olive tree, right? That's from the brass plates. We all know that. It's kind of a lame example, but it's whatever. Now, the Bible has nothing like that. There's nothing like that in the Bible. So when the Book of Mormon says there was this prophet, and he gave this prophecy, the Book of Mormon's like, what are you talking about? That's not in here. Then you find an apocryphal text, and we have Pseudo-Philo, which has a prophet named Zenez, and in it he talks about a plant of righteousness that represents Israel, and someday it's going to lose the fruit, and the branches will be and you're like, oh my gosh, this is Zenos, like this is Jacob 5, holy crap! And you start to think, wait a minute, so this Pseudo-Philo text was it on the brass plates, or was it pulling from something that is cousin to the brass plates?
And there's lots of cousins floating around.
There's a ton now.
Yeah.
And so what I try to do in the text is what scholars have done in the book is what scholars have done with the Q document. They've used Matthew and Mark and Luke to try to reconstruct what this ancient Q text may have been that Luke and Matthew used. And so I try to do the same thing and say, okay, well, let's say the brass plates, this mystery book no one's ever read, but these Nephite authors claim this. The Bible doesn't claim this.
Where'd it come from?
The Apocrypha support it. Can we reconstruct the brass plates? And so by the end of the book, I reconstruct what I think the brass plates would have been, what would have been on those brass plates. And so, yeah.
What really makes the book pop, there's a lot of things. Your one-liners, which I can't write like that. But for me, what makes it pop is where you take the text and you say, here is a text that's from 100 BC. Joseph doesn't have access to it. Mm-hmm. And you stack it up against the text in the Book of Mormon, whatever the author is, and you start seeing parallels, and then, something's afoot at the Circle K. This came from somewhere, right?
Great reference.
And by the way, the most footnoted verse in all of the Book of Mormon is 1 Nephi 19:10. So are you okay if I actually read a verse on this show? really
No,
quick?
we don't read the scriptures on this show. No, I'm sorry.
We can't even
We
read.
can't go that far.
Like these are Old
No,
Testament
please.
prophets. Listen
Please
to
read
this.
it.
This is 1 Nephi 19:10, the most footnoted verse in the Book of Mormon. The God of our fathers who were led out of Egypt, out of bondage, and also were preserved in the wilderness by him, yea, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and the God of Jacob, yieldeth himself, according to the words of the angel, as a man, that's important, into the hands of wicked men, to be lifted up according to the words of Enoch, and to be crucified according to the words of Nahum, to be buried in a sepulchre according to the words of Zenos, which he spake concerning the 3 days of darkness, which should be a sign given of his death unto those who should inhabit the isles of the sea, more especially given unto those who are of the house of Israel. Interestingly enough, a lot of these are oral things, which comes back to Greg's argument. When Greg says in 1928, when they found the Ugaritic texts, there's this whole oral presentation that was a drama, which was this story. The Gospel of Mark was a drama. It was a play. If we lived in 80 AD, we saw Mark performed. That's how it was recorded.
Because they couldn't read.
Well,
Yeah,
just
like us.
Some of them.
Yeah.
I got to be careful. I don't think Bart Ehrman's right. I'm just going to call him out.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I think there were more
Hear
literate
that,
people.
Bart? Whoever you are.
But my point is, what Jonah's doing is he's saying there is a matrix of associations out there. It's clearly not in the Old Testament. Something happened. And you don't just say something happened, you show it. And so I think it's one thing to make the claim, but then when you show it and you can see it, and then it's for you, the reader, to go read the text, decide for yourself. And I think what makes me excited is we have all these people that are going to read this, and then they're going to go read the Ascension of Isaiah. It's pretty awesome. I'm just thrilled.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Apropos of one-liners.
So many.
So some of you have seen Jonah on Word Radio or elsewhere before. Is it fair to say that he can be snarky sometimes? Sometimes.
Sarcastic.
Right? So I had the privilege of editing the book. So I got the first draft and read through and did what these things take kind of 2 or 3 turns, right? So the first draft, I write a little letter and put some comments in the text, and I called Jonah to talk, because I know he published a book before, but it was like Cedar Fort or some slapdash house. So I wanted to have a professional relationship with him. So we talked through the comments, and one of the things I said is, I said, there's like a snark meter in this book.
This is a true story.
Yeah, I said, and the way it goes is it kind of starts in chapter 1 at 10, and then after chapter 1, what it does is it kind of drops to 6. And he said, so we need to bring it up to 10 everywhere, right? And I said, well, that's an option. Ultimately, we discussed, and I think we tried to sort of get it to sort of 7 or 8 everywhere.
Dave was so diplomatic. He's like, now I'm your publisher. Maybe. And I'm like, yeah, I think what you're saying is we need to boost it all up. And so we did. So the whole book.
So it's a funny read. Like, it's really awesome. And all of you guys who have the book here tonight, if you're not a big reader, you have the audiobook as well, and Jonah reads the audiobook. So it's really fun listening to the whole book in his voice.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome.
By the way, I had to go to ChatGPT to look up some of these. I didn't know what a GigaChat was or a stan. What's a stan? Anyway.
A stalker fan.
A stalker fan.
Yeah, there's so many things I didn't know, and I was like, what is he saying? Anyway, but my kids are going to love it.
Even the guy who's getting a PhD in a foreign language thing couldn't even understand
What
this.
language is
what language is this? It's Gen Z. So let's talk a little bit because
Sorry. Before you get to that,
Yeah.
I have a list of jokes my wife told me not to tell. I had to get to these. First of all, welcome to the premiere of the Stick of Joseph documentary. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to that. She said, don't tell that joke. Let's see. This is great. My wife and I just flew in from Portland on a Boeing 737, and boy, are my Uchtdorf references tired. I thought it was such a good joke. I didn't think that was a very good joke. Let's see. If we sell 100 more books in the next 10 minutes, Greg Madson commits to dyeing his hair rainbow colors. So sell those books.
Do it up. Link in the description.
Also, typically it's protocol that all these LDS YouTubers can't be in the same place at the same time, and that's why we left Faith Matters at home. Yeah. So there you go. So there's a few.
Okay, there we go.
Had to throw those.
And that is the snark. That is the Jonah Barnes snark.
I'm gonna have to
There's
read
pl-
ChatGPT to understand Jonah.
There's plenty more where that came from in the book.
In the book. Yeah, so one of the things that I find really interesting is you're pointing out all of these ancient texts that Joseph Smith had no access to, and you're drawing all these connections to the Book of Mormon. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, why does nobody care? Like, why doesn't the academic community care? And one thing that you put forward is you show some of the reasoning, the circular reasoning that happens in the academic community regarding these apocryphal texts. Because one thing that you guys will find out as you read this is that most of these apocryphal texts have Christian themes. So therefore, all the scholars say, well, if it has anything that is Christian, it has to be before Christ. Therefore, it's not in the Book of Mormon times. Or it has to be after Christ, right? And so tell us a little bit about why a lot of these apocryphal texts are just thrown out wholesale and why people don't take them seriously sometimes.
Yeah, so
turn to page 24, by the way, in your book, and you'll see a graph.
That's great. So you gotta understand, like, we all imagine that there's like a guy in a white coat with like a beaker, and he's like, this text comes from 350 AD. Like, that doesn't exist. Like, there's no such thing. When you find some text like buried in the sand, there's no like dating on the molecules. You can't tell how old it is. You have to say, okay, how deep was it buried? Is it next to any other artifacts that maybe we do know? When was this site active? Do archaeologists know? And there's some clues, but there's some texts that are just texts. And like, I think Brad pointed out very, very intelligently once he said, you can't date an idea. You can't just put a date on an idea, okay? And so if somebody steals an idea and they write it on a new piece of paper, then all of a sudden the date changes. Like, it's really hard to date these things. So I go through in the book how historic manuscript dating, HMD, works in the academic world. And what they do is they look at a book and they compare it to a bunch of other books. And they say, this book says, and it came to pass. And all these books say, and it came to pass. And we think these books are from the 3rd century. So this one is also probably from the 3rd century. And I know that sounds slipshod and kind of rough, but that's totally how they do it. Like, it's really like that. It's totally that bad. And one example that I give is from somebody who I very much respect is Dr. Stephen Robinson, who is a professor at BYU, a faithful Latter-day Saint, wonderful man who wrote an excellent book, Believing Christ. And he was a scholar looking at some of these manuscripts, and he looks at one and he says, and I quoted in the book, his analysis, he says, we date this to the 3rd century or after, he actually says, we cannot date this before the time of Christ because it has Christian themes. And I think, okay,
What
Steve,
about the Book of Mormon?
you believe in the Book of Mormon, right? You know that there were Christian themes before Christ. We know that. And that is the primary kind of logic that they use to throw out these books wholesale, is they say if there's anything Christian that it purports to be pre-Christ, then it must be a hoax. It must be a forgery. It must be an interpolation. And they toss the whole thing out. Now, you have this like secret gnosis, guys. We know that Christ has been preached since Adam. That's weird. That's really weird. The whole world thinks we're crazy
and
when we say that.
I really like that you point out in the book is that, like, that is not the kind of claim Joseph Smith would be making if he was trying to make this up as an evil genius.
Yes.
You know? Evil genius Joseph Smith doesn't have Jacob say, oh yeah, prophets from the beginning have been preaching about Christ.
Right. Why would you do that? That's a very bold claim, and con artists don't make bold claims. And then it's so demonstrably false. We look at the Old Testament and we're like, there's no Messiah in here. There's like 2 times in Daniel that it says like, Messiah. And the Jews read the same verses. And they say, this isn't about Christ. What are you talking about? You Christians are squinting yourself blind, trying to read the Messiah into this text, and they laugh at us. They're right. The Old Testament doesn't have a lot of messianic language in it. It just doesn't.
Except for Isaiah, who snuck it in.
And
like a boss.
Yes.
And actually, that's what you'll learn. By the end of the book, you'll learn that's why Isaiah is so good. Because he was like the secret, like like the codex dude. He was like encoding this stuff so that it wouldn't get deleted by people. And that's what makes Isaiah such a genius. But the Book of Mormon doesn't do that. The Book of Mormon bursts through the wall like the Kool-Aid guy from page 1 and is like, oh yeah, Messiah. And he just starts screaming about the Messiah. He's like, yeah, he's baptized in Jordan. And yeah, 600 years.
And this is
like,
someone, I was having a conversation with a Protestant friend of mine. He's a pretty prominent Protestant friend here in Utah. And I asked him, I was like, so what do you really think about the Book of Mormon? What's your biggest problem with it? And he said, the anachronisms. And I was like, oh, so like steel swords and stuff like that? And he's like, no, the fact that it talks about Jesus Christ so plainly in 600 BC.
Yes.
And we forget that because we've grown up around the Book of Mormon. We accept the Book of Mormon, but the rest of the Christian world thinks that's crazy. And that's what's so amazing about this book is that these apocryphal documents talk very clearly about Christ.
Right.
And I'm just going to read on page 24, I'm just going to read this circular reasoning thing that you put together. It's amazing, but this is the academic dismissal
I've got my
two-step.
tenure. Go ahead. Fire away.
Or how to ignore the Apocrypha. We found these books. They show pre-30 AD Christian themes. No credible books show Christian themes before 30 AD. But these books do, but those aren't credible. Why not? What makes them credible? If they conform to what we've found before. But now we found books they show pre-30 AD Christian themes, and it just goes on.
And it goes
forever
round and
ever.
round.
And
that's
so
what they do.
And, you know, I can see how at the beginning when you're finding these Christian themes and you find one document and it's claiming to have been pre-Christ, then you're like, okay, we can't really take that at face value, right?
Yeah, sure,
maybe it's
of
after.
course, of course.
But when it happens over and over and over again, maybe we should pay attention. Mike, I can see you're having a stroke a little bit because you are a scholar.
I wouldn't call myself a scholar. What I would call myself is I'm like Jonah, except for I go to school because I'm a nerd. But I would always say we all, as Latter-day Saints, need to not overplay our hand. We need to be cautious.
Yeah.
I don't know if all these texts are pre-100 BC. I don't know.
For sure.
But I'm open to that argument. I'm also, when I read this, I thought, okay, this is not just this academic issue, but this is all academia. It's hard. How do I get my dissertation to pass if I say something that my committee doesn't like? It's really challenging. So and Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot. It's a challenge in today's world. There are academics that I know that are scared to talk because of woke culture. And somehow, and this is what I love about what you guys are doing, is you say, we're going to say it even if it isn't popular. But if it's right and we feel like it's right, it's still America. Mm-hmm. I'm hopeful that more stuff comes to light. I wish that the Dead Sea Scrolls would have had some of these in them, because I want them to be 100 BC. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in the space of I'm just always a little bit careful. But one thing that is a powerful argument is we have things and you do such a good job of spotlighting this. We have texts that are extra biblical that are right in the Book of Mormon that Joseph had no access to.
Yes.
And probably the biggest one, and I think you talk about it, I forget the term you use these amazing one-liners, which I wish I could talk like you, but you say something about how Enoch is the flaming sword. I mean, Enoch is, everybody's using it.
Yeah.
The New Testament writers are just loving Enoch, and Enoch never makes the cut, and why? Well, anyway, this could be a separate episode of what made the cut. When Athanasius writes his festal letter in 367 and he says, here's my prediction, this is what I want, the 27 books need to be in there.
You know, right?
Everyone
Athanasius, right? 367, right? Am I right?
Well, Athanasius.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh yeah,
Athanasius.
I know, yeah.
He sets the table, and Enoch doesn't make the cut. And one of the reasons why is because not everybody knew about it. Well, just because you don't know about it doesn't mean it's true.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
What I love is when they say, when you study the New Testament canonizers, I need to have this at the tip of my brain, but there's the letters that's in my next books. But he says, they say, why didn't you include these books in the canon? And the other canonizer says, well, we don't include them because the Jews didn't include them.
Which, think about that for a second.
And then the Jews say
they killed him.
And then the Jews say, we didn't include it because it's too Christian.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, your Christians are not included because the Jews say, and they're saying it's
so
too Christian.
So here's what's
it's
powerful
crazy.
about the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon is doing something before all this stuff comes to light, before these texts come to light. The Book of Mormon is spotlighting this, saying, here it is. I believe the Book of Mormon came out when it was supposed to. Mm-hmm. And it came out in the only place where it could come out. And then this stuff comes out, and I feel it. I know it's true. And so the academic stuff's awesome, and I love it, and I will always first time I met you today was today. I'm like, started hugging you. I'm like, I love you that there's people that are spotlighting this stuff. And the fact that there's people that care enough to read it and talk about it and share it with their friends. Joseph Smith wasn't making this stuff up.
Yeah.
Anyway, whether or not this stuff is pre-Jesus.
Yeah.
And I actually love the way that Jonah talks about this. Like you're saying with Joseph Smith not making this up. We got to remember the way that he wrote this. You guys talked a little bit about the process of writing this book, how the snark level did not match between different editions. Yeah, highly irregular. And you needed to go through a couple of drafts to make sure everything was right, everything was good.
11 drafts.
Whoa, that's a lot.
It was totally 11, Dave. Don't shake your head. It was 11 drafts. I remember every single one.
You're implying I couldn't get it right the first time.
and something beautiful that Jonah does at the very beginning of this book is he helps you understand Joseph Smith speed ran the Book of Mormon and just in a single draft threw down this amazing book with all of these quotations to yet to be discovered apocryphal texts with all of these chiasmus perfectly laid out that he just randomly whipped out of a rock in a hat.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen. And so I love the way that Jonah helps you appreciate the miracle that the Book of Mormon really is as he begins this book.
Yeah, and let me, amen. Let me highlight that with, I'm just going to read the first paragraph of your book because I think it highlights it perfectly and we get a little sense of snark. After being educated at King Edward's Prep School, graduating from Oxford, serving as fellow at Pembroke College, becoming an acclaimed writer, and following 12 years of uninterrupted toil, Joseph Smith Jr. published the Book of Mormon. Oops. No, wait. That was J.R.R. Tolkien writing Lord of the Rings. Joseph Smith Jr. was a 23-year-old kid who could barely write a letter, who spent a couple months writing a single stream of consciousness rant with virtually zero edits, and who thereby produced the most important religious book since the Quran. Then this wonderkind writer, this Mozart of manuscripting, this sudden scriptural savant, never published anything like it ever again. Unless this is a miracle, the feat only makes sense to the senseless people. And so, it's an awesome opener. Yeah. And I can feel through every single page of this book your absolute love for the Book of Mormon and this revere that you have for it. And why right now, the first book that we published was Dave's In the Language of Adam about the Book of Mormon.
Awesome book.
This one about the Book of Mormon. Both Dave and Greg and Andrea's books are heavily going to be pulling from the Book of Mormon as well. Why does the world need the Book of Mormon so much, and why are you so adamant? Why are all of us so adamant about defending it and sharing it?
Well, so first of all, you got to understand that it's actually kind of rare. I don't mean to throw shade on anybody. I'm just saying, like Dave's book. So it started with Don Bradley's book. Don Bradley's Lost 116 Pages.
Awesome book.
I read that book. That book blew my mind because Don, first of all, besides the scholarship is ridiculous. The guy is, amazing. Don is amazing. We actually, when we recorded at Ward Radio, we slept in the same trailer, bunks on top of each other. So I like to say that I slept with Don Bradley.
Yeah.
He loves when I say that, by the way. But what he does in his book is that Don Bradley treats the Book of Mormon like it's supposed to be treated. Dave Butler reads the Book of Mormon with the respect it deserves. None of this like, oh, we're kind of like the Bible. Can we eat at your lunch table? Kind of crap. None of that crap. No. It's like this isn't another testament of Jesus Christ. This is the original testament of Jesus Christ. The brass plate record that the Nephite prophets pull from predates the post-exilic compilation of the Bible. It predates it. The Book of Mormon's doctrines and ideas are older than the Bible. So if I were king for a day, which is a terrible idea, but if I was, I would change the title and it would say the Book of Mormon, not another testament, but the original testament of Jesus Christ. And so I love when Dave and Don treated the Book of Mormon with the respect that it deserves. And it was just so refreshing to not read some apology for the Book of Mormon, like, oh, we're like the Bible too. Can we just be the Robin to your Batman? Crap. I hate that. It was just wonderful to hear the Book of Mormon treated right.
And I think it's awesome. And one thing that's really unique, I think, in Latter-day Saint theology is this fact, and you talk about it in here, that the people who eventually changed the canon and eventually crucified the Messiah and brought the world, what we claim the world into darkness, they worshipped a book instead of worshiping a living God.
Yes.
And it's really important that we don't do the same thing with the Book of Mormon, right? Because we could do the exact same thing. But I think that's something really unique. We believe in a living God, and that the scriptural canon isn't closed because God is still alive and he's still speaking. And revealing things to us personally and to the world.
He's the Logos, and we are having a dialogue. He is Dia through Logos. Mm-hmm. It's in our discussion that light can be manifest. The Logos is manifest when we have conversations about the Logos, and the Spirit comes in, and we're like, can you feel that? That's truth, and truth is light, and Scripture continues.
I love what you just said. That was super nerdy.
It is awesome.
But it's true.
Super nerdy. Sorry. But really great.
I'm sorry.
But great. But also nerdy. Yeah, no, but the end of the book, okay, so the brass plates, the most important book in Mormonism that no one's ever read before, passes the baton to the Book of Mormon. The reason why the Apocrypha, the brass plates, and all these other texts, they're awesome. Well, I love them. I love them. But the reason why the church doesn't come out and is like, we should all read the Ascension of Isaiah, which would be amazing, but it doesn't do those things, is because the Book of Mormon does contain the fullness of the gospel, not because it has the correct doctrines. And I think we get sucked into this, is that we think the Book of Mormon is superior or better because it has better doctrine or clearer doctrine or more doctrine or missing doctrines. That's not it. It's the Book of Mormon says it's not about the book. Don't build an idol out of paper and ink. Okay, that can't save you. And the Book of Mormon says, like, God is corporeal and Jesus Christ is the Messiah, and prophets and revelation. That's the fullness of the gospel. The fullness of the gospel cannot be contained in any book. So we say the Book of Mormon contains the fullness of the gospel, not because it's a superior canon, but because it points to our living prophets and apostles today and the church that's been restored on earth, the kingdom of God on earth. And so it's a different, we use the same words canon, but they mean kind of different things.
Different things. Brad, you were going to say something.
Just a bad joke. You got to be careful about disparaging paper and ink when you're working with this new publishing company, man.
That's true.
Read the room, Jonah.
Read the room.
Read the room.
You know what the paper and ink does for me? It's this, but it's on paper, because I can't hang out with Jonah every day. But I get to, like, I felt like I knew him before I ever met him today. And I was like, feeling like, I love this man. He's defending truth. And I'm like, I've never met him, but I love him. And it's like, no, I'm serious. Like, so paper is this, but we can't always hang out because we have to work and stuff.
Because our wives make us go to work. Yeah. Those women send us off to work. Yeah,
but I mean it. I love you, man. You're awesome.
Thank you, brother. I love you too, brother. I've followed Dave for years on talking scripture and the Deuteronomist stuff that you guys cover on.
Boo. Deuteronomist.
You're such nerds. You are such nerds. But the Deuteronomist stuff that you guys cover on the Stick of Joseph channel is like, I love when people get this. It's the ultimate red pill moment, the ultimate gold pill moment.
Yes.
When they're like, oh my gosh, I'm being lied to. I've been lied to. And you realize that some of the canon has been kind of
messed around with.
And like in my book, you're going to get to chapter 6. And if you read past that, then I gotcha. Because chapter 6 is when kind of reveal that somebody had been lied to with the canon. But like the work that Margaret Barker and Dave Butler and Mike Day on the Stick of Joseph channel talking about the Deuteronomists is totally paradigm shifting. It's totally paradigm shifting. It explains why the Book of Mormon is important. The Book of Mormon did not just save us from one apostasy. It was preserving the truth against 2 apostasies. And when you really understand that, it changes the mission of the Book of Mormon for you. And we sometimes will start arguments and debates about the Book of Mormon with our evangelical friends, and they'll say, well, they base it off of the Old Testament, and we lose those arguments. When you realize that that's quicksand. You're basing your arguments on quicksand. Those people who wrote that book were the scribes Jesus condemned. describes that he was livid at.
Yeah.
Right? He said, you're a generation of vipers, and you love him, and yet here you are like, oh, and I love these scribes so much. You're like, guys, that's kind of like the hint. Like,
by the way,
Jesus
Jonah, I had so many aha moments, but you mentioned this one bit. I have to tell you a story about this bit you wrote. So the first time I go to Israel, I'm with my two buddies. We're going on Air Jordan. And we're on this flight.
What a cool name for an airline, Air Jordan.
Air Jordan.
Yeah.
Or Jordanian Air. Anyway, we're going.
Some guy in a turban like Duncan. Yeah, it's awesome.
And I'm having this conversation with a couple of my buddies about how the Deuteronomists jacked up the text, and they've never heard this. These are some of my colleagues, and I take them to Deuteronomy 12 with the cult centralization, and I read all the bits in there where Yahweh apparently says to Moses, you know, when you said you saw me, you never really saw me because no one can see me because I don't exist. Yeah. And I'm showing my buddies all this, and there's this guy behind me who's in the military who's flying to he's going to Saudi Arabia through Air Jordan, and he leans over and he says, can I ask you a question? And he's like, I've been listening to you for like the past 2 hours, and I have a question. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be in a Bible bash moment. I don't want a Bible bash. Yeah. I'm tired. It's 3 a.m. And he says, I'm evangelical, and I've never heard this before. Ooh. What do you do with the fact that Jesus quotes Deuteronomy all over the place? Oh. And I said to him, what if he's quoting Deuteronomy to checkmate Deuteronomy?
Boom.
And you wrote that in your book.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I was actually awesome. In the seat.
Like, Jonah's my brother. Jonah's my brother.
Yeah. And I was,
we're twins.
Yeah. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah, and people are like, oh, but did you know? I love the comments on YouTube. But did you know that Jesus quotes Deuteronomy? And I'm like, actually, yes, he quotes Deuteronomy like 68 times, every single one of which is referenced in my book. Because Dave made me put it in there to cover every single quotation of Deuteronomy. So I did it. So you YouTube commenters who were like, did you know that Jesus quoted Deuteronomy? Yes, I do know that. Okay, and every one of them's covered in the book.
And by the way, they will comment that. I guarantee there'll be 20 of those.
So let's talk about one thing to like kind of wet people's whistles a little bit, get them excited to dive into the rest of it. So one thing that is mentioned in the beginning of the Book of Mormon, in the first couple books, is this idea that all of the people stoned the prophets that testified about the Messiah, and they stoned them because they talked about the Messiah coming.
Right.
And then you ask the question, where in the Old Testament are the prophets that are being stoned? Anyone know? Raise your hand. No, there aren't any prophets in the Old Testament that are being stoned.
There's no prophets being stoned
because
in the Old Testament.
if you are condemning prophets to be stoned, you're not going to then put that in there that you killed all of these prophets who were
technically Zechariah was stoned between on the porch of the temple. That's one. But Lehi says in the first chapter of the Book of Mormon, he says, I said they're all going to be destroyed, and they're like, oh, Lehi, you so crazy. They just mock him. They just laugh at him. And then Lehi's like, and some Messiah, and they're like, blah, and they want to kill him. And you're like, geez, calling them all wicked and you're all going to be, destroyed by the Babylonians, they just laugh it off. But you say the word Messiah, and they flip their lid and they want to kill him. And he says, you want to kill me just like you wanted to kill those older prophets. So I ask, what older prophets? Can anyone name a messianic prophet in the Old Testament who was killed? Oh. There's not a single one. And you know who else mentions these prophets, these mystery prophets? Jesus Christ does, and Peter does in Acts chapter 7. He mentions these. Jesus Christ says, like the prophets, woe to you, Jerusalem. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who slayeth the prophets. What prophets? What are you talking about? The New Testament testifies, just like the Book of Mormon, that the Old Testament has holes, important holes, gaping holes, that our critics seize upon and say, you Christians have made this all up. You just wanted to believe he rose from the dead, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And Bart Ehrman says this. Bart Ehrman's right. The Old Testament doesn't have this kind of language in it. Jesus says it should be in there. Peter says it should be in there. Paul says it should be in there, but it's not there. So I wish our Christian brothers and sisters loved the New Testament enough to ask themselves where these texts are. Because the Book of Mormon testifies to the exact same thing. And so, if you want to actually read those texts that Jesus was talking about, I reference them in the book. I think that there are these apocryphal texts. And they all support this central claim that Joseph Smith made, that Christianity was preached from the beginning. And Joseph Smith went to his grave. He was killed because he preached these things and he never lived to see the reinforcements come. He held back as long as he could. He never saw these other texts in the 200 years after his death come cascading down saying, Joseph was right, Joseph was right, Joseph was right, pre-Messianic Christ, Joseph was right, Gentiles, the redemption of the Gentiles, interior repentance, all these things covered in the book. Joseph was right. He never got to see them. He went to his death never seeing the reinforcements come.
I don't know the verse, but there's a verse where Paul says, always be ready to give an answer for why you believe. And I think as Latter-day Saints, we need to be able to articulate why we believe, and that's what this book does, and thank goodness. And I will say this, we don't have to have the book memorized, but if you have a couple in your hip pocket when you talk to your friends, maybe you'll get them to read or think or pray. But yeah. I really think that we as a Latter-day Saint culture, there's I don't know how many million of us, but what if we all did this? What if we all were able to be more articulate with why we believe and really spend time reading texts? And I think, man, China with TikTok, man, they know how to waste time, don't they?
Yeah.
Right. But we have time to read the Book of Mormon. There is time. We can fit it in. Anyway.
For sure. Dave, I want to ask you, with this being the second book that we are publishing, what impact do you think this has? So we've seen the impact in the languages of Adam has had on, especially the online conversation. A lot of people are talking about the Deuteronomists. A lot of people are talking about the temple imagery in the Book of Mormon. I think a big part of that comes from the book that you did. What conversation do you think this is going to start, and what other conversations need to happen, do you think, when it comes to the Book of Mormon?
Oh, wow.
Small question.
Instead, I want to share something out of Jonah's book.
Yeah, just ignore me. It's okay.
That's such a great question. I'm going to answer a different question. So,
get wrecked, me.
There's a lot of great stuff. We haven't talked about the Testament of Naphtali, which is a wonderful case study in some of the themes you're talking about. But I also want to share. This is a spoiler, okay? I'm going to tell you something that I think is worth the price of admission in this book, which is it's a super cool, straight-up insight into the Book of Mormon text that to sort of connect with Hayden's question, it's the kind of thing that it's not that it's extraneous to the arguments Jonah's making, but it's the kind of thing that when he points it out, you go, why has nobody noticed that before? Because it's right there, okay? So, Book of Omni, Amaleki is the last record keeper in the line descending from Jacob, right? And he talks about his father, Abinadom, and he says, my older brother should have taken over the record from my father, but he left, and he went with those people that went to go reclaim the land of our first inheritance. Okay, so his older brother, son of Abinadom, presumably got the education it was required to be a record keeper, right? So we hear what that is at the beginning of the Book of Mosiah. It's instruction that King Benjamin gave his son in languages and in the text, right?
And he should have been the record keeper. Right?
And he should have been the record
the
keeper.
heir.
And by the way, this also means that he is, although in the lineage of Jacob, he's a prince of the house of Nephi. He disappears. We don't know where he is, so I'm giving the stuff to Benjamin. Then over in the Book of Mosiah, after Zenith goes down, Noah's bad, suddenly out of nowhere, this guy named Abinadi shows up. And we never hear his background, who Abinadi is. But when he gets into confrontation with Noah, the secular king, okay, first of all, he apparently has the brass plates memorized because he's reciting them verbatim, even as they're like
gonna kill him.
They're working up the kangaroo court to murder him, right? And the passages he's citing are specifically passages out of Isaiah that are about the Davidic king, and they're about the king being humiliated and suffering ritually and then being reborn. So they're both about the Davidic king, and they're also about Christ. Which means Abinadi is probably the missing son of Abinadom. Because that's probably why he knows those passages by heart. And it's also probably why he cites them, because he is a prince of the house of Nephi, and he's confronting a king who has no no ritual status, right? He's not a Davidic king. He's just Noah. They went out and they, right? Reminding Noah who he really is, but then also turning that into a prophecy and a teaching about Christ. And then when Ammon and his companions hear about the death of Abinadi, I think it says they mourn exceedingly, or something is the word. They mourn him greatly. But it's not because just a guy died, right? Some guy. It's because the last prince of the house of Nephi, who should have been a record keeper, who disappeared and we lost track of him, was murdered by this false king, right? So, and again, it is tied into the arguments Jonah is making, but it's one of these things where you look at it and go, why has nobody seen this in 195 years, right? Abinadab's son goes missing. A few years later, some fellow named Abinadi shows up in the same trade, right? And yet we haven't. So, like, really, my answer to the question is we just all need to read the Book of Mormon and find out what it wants to tell us. Because I feel like we haven't even finished taking the low-hanging fruit yet, because we're just not reading it enough.
And think about the symbolism of Christ when it comes to that the heir to the kingdom comes down and warns them and then dies a death.
Yes.
Right? A terrible death. And it is just one thing that I've learned on the Stick of Joseph is the serious complexity of the Book of Mormon is actually its greatest is the greatest evidence. There isn't a single smoking gun in the Book of Mormon that can be like, this is why I know it's an ancient, authentic record. It is the cumulative complexity of all these different layers of things that are happening that I'm just like, I can't believe, I don't have enough faith to believe that Joseph Smith just made it up.
Yeah, no way.
No. I don't have that amount of faith. I don't have the faith of the ex-Mormons and those who criticize the Book of Mormon. Maybe one day I'll get there. I hope not.
They're very faithful people.
It's okay. You'll make your way back to the Comeback Podcast.
Yeah,
It'll be great.
Like John DeLynn.
Yep.
Like John DeLynn. Yeah.
No, so that's amazing. Jonah, I want to give you some last words. Why should people go and read your book and just share your testimony?
Why should you go read my book? I hope, the hope is that my book helps people appreciate the mission of the Book of Mormon more. That it isn't just like some extra stuff on top of the Bible that's also really good. It's not an appendage. It's not an addition to the Bible. It's not a sequel to the Bible. It is the original testament of Jesus Christ. And so I hope that when people read it, they close my book and they say, I've got to read the Book of Mormon seriously. Like, give it the respect that it deserves. I'll never get over it. There's no way he could have known this stuff. As I was researching the book and I come across these things, it's crazy because it's like that text didn't exist. It was dug up 100 years after his death. How the heck did Joseph know this? It blows my mind. I'll never get over it. So I hope that's what it does for you. I hope you never get over it. I hope it makes you look at the Book of Mormon differently and Joseph Smith's sacrifice differently. I hope you appreciate how weird we are. How crazy.
Peculiar.
Sorry, peculiar. I'm translating and it comes weird and I just, like.
A treasure.
No. I hope you guys appreciate how strange our position is and how unbelievably lucky we are. No one else has this. They have to read a canon that is at the mercy of the last editor. And we get to read a book that the last editor was a prophet under the guidance of God himself writing the Book of Mormon. We're so unique in that. Like, we should feel like $1 million every day that we get this book that other people don't. They don't get it. So I'll never get over it. It's the most incredible thing ever that we have this. It's the most incredible archaeological discovery in history. It is the most remarkable literary compilation ever that anyone can read. It is a miracle in print. I saw the original manuscript of the Book of Mormon in the Church History Library. You Utahns were so spoiled. You have it just like 40 minutes north. I had to fly here with all my kids screaming in the back. to go to the church history library and see that manuscript. Joseph wrote that thing in one go. There's no strike throughs. There's no corrections. It's just a stream of text. And I look down at that page and I'm like, we can talk about archaeology and talk about Reformed Egyptian and talk about, was it really a blah, 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 or did Joseph have the other? Great, super duper. Like, I call it the pudding chef argument. Well, the pudding chef hasn't studied in Paris, You're like, okay, shut up and try the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. Is the pudding any good? Right? Well, he didn't finish his pudding doctorate. And you're like, yeah, shut up and try the pudding. Just eat the pudding, okay? Like, the Book of Mormon is the pudding. And we talk about how it came to be and when it came to be and blah, 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 blah. Read the book. And you read the book and you're like, there's no way 100 Tolkiens in 100 years could write this thing. It's impossible. It's impossible. So that was amazing.
Crazy testimony. No, thank you.
But it's totally true.
That's awesome. So for everyone watching, for the next 48 hours, you can get Key to the Keystone and In the Language of Atoms with $5 off. Link is in the description. So you can do that. We just realized, so we are doing a giveaway. We're going to do the giveaway here and give away the Pillow Cube. We're going to give away some War in Heaven veteran hats. And we're going to give away some books as well. Some In the Language of Adam and Key to the Keystone books. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to throw a QR code because I know everybody here didn't get to do that. If you want to scan the QR code and enter the giveaway, do that right now. And I will also talk about, for the next little bit too, Witness Apparel you can get for 25% off. Link is in the description for everyone watching live. And then that little card that you have, you can scan that and get that as well. So scan this real quick. Let's take one question. It can be about anything you watched on the Stick of Joseph, anything you watched on Ward Radio. Who wants to ask one of these people? Who I know because we get 1,000 messages, 1,000 comments, 1,000 emails. And we got James Lucas, a fellow that I know. Do we have a wireless mic? James, would you ask your question? And while everyone's filling that out, and anyone who's on the live stream, if you want to join the giveaway, link is in the description. Put in your information, and we will be doing that momentarily. Ask your question to Mr. Jim Lucas, who is the author, the co-author of By Means of the Urim and Thummim. And don't say whatever Cardin said for you to say. That's always a safe bet.
Okay, this is an old white-haired man's question. And I'm looking at this crowd, and I'm not the only one here. Mike, take your hat off.
He's got white hair, too.
Okay. Many years ago, when I was somewhat younger, there was this crazy old man who would write books that would have these incredible insights, gathering sources from all across the learned world about the Book of Mormon. His name was Hugh Nibley.
Woo woo.
Yeah. Now, my question is this. You are all a bunch of crazy outsiders. I mean, even Mike, who's struggling to get a PhD.
Nerd.
He's not struggling. Not struggling. He's on the 1 yard line.
He showed his white hair. He's an old guy.
I've turned the dissertation in, but we're in the edit phase. I don't know how long that will last.
Hey, I can get you one of these, Mike, if you want.
Do you have Dave Butler editing your dissertation?
Oh, he's read parts.
He's ruthless.
Okay, so my question is this. It was incredibly exciting then. I have to say that reading all the stuff that Hugh Nibley wrote was very helpful for me in getting my testimony of the Book of Mormon. It seems to me, and I could be wrong, and a lot of people could point to lots of stuff that I've overlooked in the years since, but it seemed to me that we have not had that kind of excitement about the Book of Mormon until you bunch of crazy outsider yokels have come along to bring us exciting, fascinating new insights onto the Book of Mormon, which I compare to what I remember from the days of Hugh Nibley. So my question is this. why has it been taken so long for you guys to come around? And secondly, how do we get it out to the church?
Mike, hit it.
So I just want to jump in and say there have been great men and women that have of faith that have done this, but it's the story that you told me about the trebuchet. Do you want to tell that story? Do you want to give them that story? Because really, that's the issue. These guys are the trebuchet. Tell them the story.
No, you just ruined the parable.
Oh, I did? I'm sorry. I have brain damage.
Rewind.
He does. He had a stroke.
You will. No. Here's the story I told. I told the Paul brothers shortly after meeting them. So there's a guy. The guy digs in his yard and hits something. And the guy is of a people that's had good luck digging up stuff in their yard, so he keeps digging and he's exploring this thing, getting kind of excited about it. Neighbors find out. At first neighbors are, "Oh, you're excited, I'm excited for you," but pretty quickly they get tired because he won't talk about anything else. And he becomes the guy you don't want to invite to the party because that's what he's going to talk about. And if he speaks in sacrament meeting, for sure he's going to talk about the stupid thing he's digging up in his backyard. He's a weirdo. And he's a weirdo. And
peculiar.
He has probably bad hair. And so, but then people come from elsewhere in the city, and say, "What do you? I think you're digging up a thing, right?" And he says, "Well, I'm digging up a come look at the thing. Here's what I think it is. I'm still digging, but it's super interesting." And some of them say, "Well, listen, I think some of my neighbors would be interested." And so he had little pockets elsewhere in town, people who are starting to have conversations about this thing being dug up in the guy's backyard. And he keeps digging and realizes it's a rock, and it's a very strange looking rock. And eventually he unearths enough of it that he can get a winch and hoist it out. He pulls this big rock out and sets it on the grass in his backyard. He's brushing the dirt off his hands, and he realizes there's someone else standing there with him. And he realizes it's God. And he says, "God, look at the rock." God says, "I know. I made it." And the guy says, "Look how cool this rock is, though. It's parts of it are translucent, parts of it has weird knobs. This part is emitting bubbles over on the side. It's kind of hinged as a sharp end and a big, heavy. I've never seen a rock like it." God says, "I know." And the guy says, "But I'm a little sad because I don't know what to do with this rock." And God says, "There's a couple of guys down the street, and I've been helping them build a trebuchet." So God works in mysterious ways. And maybe we live in a time when we can decentralize some of that effort, when we don't have to hide away the scholarship. Before farms, people who wrote things about the Book of Mormon just put papers in their filing cabinet and kind of hid them and occasionally shared them with others. And farms became a way to kind of share and publish us back in the 80s and 90s. And then farms kind of transformed. Maybe we're living in a kind of an age of the great democratization of gospel study. Information is so easy to access, right? But and publishing is so easy. Any idiot can do it. So I share your enthusiasm. It feels very similar to me. And even so Hugh Nibley, reading Hugh Nibley stuff when I was a teenager was what turned me on to the idea that the gospel had an intellectual adventure component to it.
Me too.
He was in my ward, by the way. I didn't really, had no knowledge that little guy with the funny hat was anybody special, hiding from his home teachee because she was crazy. But if any of you haven't read Hugh Nibley, I will tell you this: he could be pretty snarky. And so, in some sense, Jonah is carrying on a great tradition of people defending the Book of Mormon with snark.
And to piggyback off of that, something that I think is maybe going to be happening here is similar to what we've seen grow out of Ward Radio and all of the other podcasts that are showing up, whether from Ward Radio directly or from just other people starting up on their own and continuing out. Some of the things that we do are going to offend people so much that they finally get out there and make their own book and say, this is how you should be reading the Book of Mormon. And someone who's a scholar who is like, Jonah, you made fun of scholars too much. They'll go out and they'll make their own book. And they will do this in a way that will grow all of this conversation and keep it going and expanding in such a good way. Like Mike was talking about earlier, getting us focused on the Book of Mormon. That's really the kind of deep goal of all of this, is to get everybody focused back on what really matters and looking at it with new eyes, looking at it in a way that they can start really trying to understand it more. Because, I don't know, I mean, I guess we're lucky that scholars already answered every single question, right? Like, up till now, wait a second, no, they didn't. And now we have a bunch of stuff that Jonah's throwing out there that any scholar can start taking a look at and say, hey, I think you're wrong about these, but oh, wait a second. Oh, no, he had a point on these ones. Let's get this out there. Let's get this to more people, because that's the thing I think that excites me most about this book that Jonah has written. He's bringing up these amazing things. Like, oh, man, you're bringing up the fact that both Paul and Alma are quoting from the Book of Enoch. That's awesome. That's so cool. There are so many amazing nuggets in this book that I hope you guys are able to read and that you're able to share with the nerdier of your friends who are interested in this kind of stuff.
Nerds.
Yeah.
Unite.
Who then go write even more books.
Yes.
And get people focused on the Book of Mormon.
That's awesome. And I love Dave's analogy there, because I think all of us, everyone that we've had up on the panel tonight and others who are here or not here, they are the trebuchet, and the rock is Christ. As Hillman 5:12 says, which I only have memorized in Hungarian, so I'll try to do my best in English. Remember, my sons, remember that it is upon the rock of our Redeemer, who is Christ, the Son of God, that ye must build your foundations. That when the devil shall send forth his mighty winds, yea, his shafts in the whirlwind, yea, when all his hail and mighty storm shall beat upon you, it shall have no power over you to bring you down to the gulf of misery and endless woe, because of the rock upon which ye are built. A rock upon if ye build, ye shall not fall. Christ is the rock, and we are all sharing him with the world. Every one of us should be a witness for him. Every one of us has the ability to get into the scriptures and to write and to share. And so I'm so grateful for all of you here that are live, that are part of the live audience. You inspire me. You care enough to come out on a Tuesday night and listen to us weirdos because you care about Christ and because we care about Christ. None of us are the light. If any of us ever start talking like we got the answers and we're the cool ones, stop listening to us and unsubscribe. Yeah. Because it is Christ that all of us should seek to point to, and he is the way. So I'm so grateful. Thank you, everybody who has watched. Thank you, everyone who's come. Give yourselves a round of applause. So, and get...
Hey, hold up.
I know, we're not done.
Okay.
We have a giveaway to do.
Yeah, we got a giveaway. So we're going to be giving away, let's start off with a pillow cube, all right?
They're right behind you.
We'll do a couple giveaways here before we let you guys go. If you want to have visions like Lehi in your sleep, nothing's going to help you better than a good old pillow cube. So I'm going to grab one so you can see it. We got a kids one that we'll be giving away.
Okay.
My kids love it. It makes them sleep through the night. Actually, no, they don't sleep through the night.
I think you're saying that people who sleep with a pillow cube are more righteous than people who don't. I think that's what...
I'm alluding to that. You said it straight up. So, first person, Jackson, pull it up. Let's roll the dice. This is everybody who did it. That's a lot of people. Randomizer and... Amanda Vieira. Are you here? Oh, that's an online one.
Oh, she's right there.
Oh, yes! Pillow Cube! Pillow
Give it up for.
Thank you so much for coming
Remove.
up. Awesome.
It's not.
You're the Apocryphal Sunday School Gospel Doctrine teacher. All right.
We look forward
Write a
to
book.
hearing
We'll have you
your
up
vision.
here.
All right, name number
Okay.
2. Coming in hot. Coming in hot.
Number 2, this is for another Pillow Cube. This is for a kid's one, unless you don't have kids, and we'll give you a normal one.
Walter Wagner.
What do we
Are
got?
you in the building?
Walter Wagner, come on down.
That is an online
He's
person.
online.
Okay,
We'll ship
give
it
that.
to you, Walter.
Okay, the next one that we're going to be
We got
giving
your
is a War in Heaven veteran hat, which honestly is one of the greatest creative achievements in the LDS world that I've seen. It is so funny. Do you have one right here?
Look, where are War in Heaven veterans? Hold up your hats.
Here, do you have a hat?
Look at these veterans. Thank you for your service.
So if you guys aren't familiar with these are awesome. So they model after like veteran hats. Oh, okay, cool. So, but on the side. Oh, okay. Hey, Cardin, can I see your hat real quick so I can show what this thing is? And you guys can buy these as well at wardradio.com if you don't win it in the giveaway. Keystone 10 gets you 10% off, so that's awesome. So on the side right here, it has the plan of salvation, like the symbols for the plan of salvation, which is awesome. And then on the side, it has the Nauvoo Legion flag, and it says, so this is a War in Heaven veteran hat. It says, body recipient first class. So that's awesome. So we're going to be giving away one of those. Jackson, go
All right.
with it.
Sending it.
And the winner is
Charles McNeil.
Are you here? Oh, another online one. All right.
It's so anticlimactic.
I know.
Gosh.
It's worse when that happens.
Just someone scream or
watching at
something.
home like, okay,
He's so pumped right
that's
now,
totally
like
me,
yelling.
yeah, right.
Okay, next is going to be free In the Language of Adam
All right.
So let's do
spinning
that.
The wheel.
by Dijon Mustard.
The Big
Mustard.
Oh, is it a mustard name? Oh,
Oh,
it's
it's
a
a yellow
mustard
name.
name as well.
Jacob
Erickson.
Erickson.
Come
Online.
on.
Oh, there he is right there.
Oh, let's go.
Hey, Jacob, we'll give it to you. We'll give it to you at the end right there.
I'll get one right for
Sweet.
you.
All right, the next, we're going to do another pillow cube right now. Let's hit it. Okay, come on. I'm telling you guys, my wife got this while she was 8 months pregnant, and it changed our marriage. And our baby came out early because she was so rested.
Antonio Alfonso Caballero Prieto.
Wow. Who is that? Is that someone here? That's an amazing name. Okay, well, we will be sending.
right.
You're writing these down, right,
Could be
Jack?
some postage on that.
Okay, good. All right, we got one more pillow cube to give away. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's on the. Oh, do another one? Okay.
Yep, one more. Please don't be a live streamer.
Last one.
Please don't
last
be a
one.
live streamer.
Everyone better erupt either way.
Yeah, we're freaking out with this one. Ready? And
Oh.
Josh Briscoe! Woo! He's online.
They're online. They're online.
Anybody could have stood up and been like,
Alrighty.
Okay, sweet.
God
Well,
bless.
and then we'll do one more, just Ward Radio T-shirt giveaway. Let's hit it.
Spinning, spinning,
$500 normally, free right here. And the winner of the Ward Radio T-shirt is Jason Frederick. Yeah, he's here. Woo!
Let's go,
Finally.
Jason!
That's a good one to end on. All right, thank you everybody who is watching online on the live stream. We're so excited. We hope that you get the book. Everybody here that came has a book. Go home, read it. Some of you maybe came as couples and you're like, I don't need 2 books. Share it with someone else. Share it around. It's awesome. And all you watching, until next time, stay curious and hungry.
Alrighty, and remember for the next 24 hours, you can use the code WITNESS for 25% off all Witness apparel.
And there are treats. There we got like brownies, lemon bars, water. It's amazing. And we'll be hanging around. So thank you for coming.
Thanks so much, man, for all this whole thing happened. Thank you so much. You can take